Today's show is supported by Liberty Magic, Pittsburgh's premier speakeasy theater dedicated to the art of elevating magic. This time they are presenting David Williamson in Ridiculous, a family-friendly show where magic and comedy collide. David's signature magic is filled with jaw-dropping illusions and a very distinct sense of humor. Yes, he is a magician, but he's also been called a clown and even an anarchist. So get ready for a show with a lot of laughter. Ridiculous runs from April 2nd to May 3rd. Get your tickets at trustarts.org/magic before they disappear. This is CityCast Pittsburgh. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. All right, team, what did y'all not learn in high school that you feel like has kind of held you back in adulthood?
Oh, man, that's a fairly long list. I would say, honestly, I didn't realize like a lot about sort of the process of credit cards, and I didn't have a credit card until like my late 20s. And I feel like I probably could have had, like, my credit score is fine, I guess, but like I probably could have started building that up a little sooner with something beyond just a bunch of student loans.
Oh, 1,000%. I think financial literacy is like the top of every millennial's list. I mean, to your point about credit cards, like they were allowed to, like, I literally signed up for a pizza in college. I am this person because I signed like with a credit card. They bought me one pizza and I had a credit card that I literally never used because I didn't know how they worked.
That financial literacy was also going to be my answer, like maybe how to do taxes. So I guess to take it in a different direction, maybe like learning that sex doesn't always have to lead to like pregnancy and chlamydia both.
That makes me think of that Mean Girls clip where he's like, if you have sex, you will get chlamydia and you will die. Now everyone take a condom.
Was not an exaggerated scene.
Truly, God, really processing trauma right off the bat here. I am with CityCast Pittsburgh executive producer Mallory Falk, who has since learned differently, I presume, and CityCast contributor Colin Williams. Welcome back to the show.
Hey.
Today, we're going to talk about our hot takes on a couple of national opinions about Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh people, specifically a decision that our school system has made related to the draft. We're also bringing on a special ringer to talk about a food announcement that Pittsburgh is going to be part of the Michelin guide. Y'all, I still can't stop giggling about this. We just did that show and the whole thing was that we don't need them. We are our own thing. So y'all just hang out for that. Plus, we're going to be doing something a little bit new. So brand new members only segment. If you are a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor, you get a little something special starting today. So we're going to have this bonus segment at the end of every Friday show. Today, we're going to get into this Wall Street Journal article talking about one of Pittsburgh's most infamous pair of villains, the Block brothers. So that's the family behind the Post-Gazette. That's only for members. So if you aren't one and you want to listen to this, become a member at membership.citycast.fm.
We will also have a link in our show notes to make that extra easy for you. And I highly suggest becoming a member today because that opens the door to getting some exclusive merch at our 412 Day event this Sunday. So one more plug, come on out to Southern Tier on Sunday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. To party with us, celebrate everything that makes Pittsburgh special. And if you are a member, you get a very cute hat with a parking chair on it just from us.
That's so fun.
I haven't seen it yet. It's supposed to be in our hands any second now, and I'm excited. First off, we're going to do what we lately have been doing every single week, which is talking about draft things. Not even the draft, really. Like, I feel like the thing this week is that more Pittsburgh things, institutions, parks, installations are coming online in the days leading up to it. In some cases, hours. Like, we have the date, but it has not yet happened. So like Market Square, for example, Colin, I know you're getting re-signed up for all the press releases right now, but we got one that Market Square opens, I believe at 4 p.m., literally hours before the draft starts. And they're going to have like a Picklesburgh themed party. I don't know what that means, but I'm excited to see.
Megan, I love that like your brain processed Picklesburgh because this thing is actually called Picksburgh. Like,
you're kidding.
Guitar pick.
Well,
which I
I'm a
didn't
little
realize
bummed.
until I
Well,
saw
okay.
the logo.
In my defense, the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership does do Picklesburg, so maybe that's where this was. Maybe it was just wishful thinking on my part.
They should have done a mini Picklesburg. I was going to say somebody should do that next time around, but I have a feeling it's going to be a minute before we host another NFL draft.
Or 20, 25 years before we redo Market Square again.
Yes. But so Pittsburgh actually does sound cool. Like, full disclosure, I have not seen so much draft related stuff that would make me want to like brave huge crowds to participate in. But this actually sounds cool. It is a music crawl. So it like starts in Market Square, where they're going to have free live music like DJ Ari Cole, Nashville, Big Just, and Steeltown Horns. And then there's going to be live music at like more than a dozen venues around the city. The idea is that it's like a walkable festival. So a lot of these are downtown and on the north side, and each one is kind of highlighting a different form of music. I think this actually sounds really neat. Like, you can go hear a banjo show at the Elks Lodge. You can go hear international jazz at Con Alma. Club Cafes doing reggae. There's like a bunch of different stuff to check out.
That sounds really fun. And I mean, I think that's part, like this walk around, experience your city vibe of it all. I think what I like about this is that it's going to come online for locals over the course of the next 2 weeks. Like, we're laughing about this one because it's literally the day before, like the night before the draft begins on the 23rd. But for the rest of us, like, it's an introduction. It's not your only chance to experience it. So like, the fact that we've organized it, we have figured it out how to do it for the draft, like this kind of major music festival that exists in 4 or 5 different neighborhoods, actually more as I'm looking at this list. That's so cool. That means we hopefully have the roadmap now to replicate it, to do it again, just for us, for Pittsburgh in the future.
I think it's so crucial to get people out of this downtown and North Shore zone too. The draft is obviously going to activate the center of the city, but we have 90 neighborhoods. I feel like that's always something I'm reminding people of. Like, there are so many other places for folks to check out during the draft, and this will get folks into Southside, into Bloomfield, all kinds of places that are a little bit more beyond this huge footprint of the draft.
Yeah. And I mean, during this period, like as you're listening to this, it's about a week and a half out. We're also going to have like a ton of those art installations that we've talked about, like different ways that they're financing them or using this empty space downtown. A lot of that stuff is going to come online in the next week. I just signed up for a tour actually of some of it. So they're going to be pointing to like how you can experience it. So stay tuned there. But I'm excited to walk around my city, which is, springtime in Pittsburgh is always a welcome thing, like blue skies, warmer weather. We all start to like come outside and stretch a little bit. You see all the Yinzer dads in their convertibles, even when it's 40 degrees outside. But this feels different and special in a new way. And I kind of love that part.
And the point's back on. It's on early this year.
Did I see Corey O'Connor, like our mayor, jumping in the fountain on social media? Did any of y'all see that?
I heard that he did a run around the point. I didn't hear about him jumping into the fountain.
Was it a run around? Okay. It was like, it wasn't working for me, and it kept like quick cutting away. And I was like, is he jumping in? I mean, he did jump in the Oliver Bathhouse pool when that reopened. So it didn't feel totally out of character.
Although I don't know if the city wants to officially be encouraging people to be swimming around in the point.
No, that's usually very much frowned upon. Okay, well, we will turn now to some national press that we got kind of related to the NFL draft. I mean, I guess very, but it felt less about the draft and more, I don't know how y'all read it. To me, it felt like we were really picking on the wrong person here.
Yeah, so the big takeaway here is that a local put us on blast in the Washington Post with an opinion piece basically about why closing the schools during the draft was essentially a bad call. And as a reminder for listeners, PPS is going to be in remote mode from April 22nd to 24th. So basically a day ahead of the draft starting, schools will all be doing Zoom lessons or whatever else. This has been kind of a hot topic in Pittsburgh, like whether this is a good idea. Some interesting quotes from here. Hard work, responsibility, and yes, in-person learning are important, and the school district's decision sends the wrong message. So I think there's some valid critiques buried in this, but I would also remind listeners that one of Pittsburgh's main magnet schools, Kappa, is in the heart of downtown next to Arts Landing, which is going to be an active zone during the draft. Pitt is having their Panthers block party during the draft at that time. There's also city charter high schools, urban pathways schools downtown. So there are a lot of schools in this immediate area, and even some that are pretty close to the North Shore, like Allegheny Traditional Academy, King School. So for what it's worth, I mean, I think that there's some logic here. I mean, do you want kids taking public transit to schools when there are potentially 200,000 people out and about downtown? I think that's a fair question to be asking.
And the upward estimates of that are more like 700,000. Like, we just truly don't know yet how many people to anticipate. It really ranges. And usually we're talking about this as like a sum total, like that 700,000 over a 3-day period. So we don't know yet like how bad it's going to be. What we do know is that literally everyone who has anything to do with city government, county government, and transit are all saying, if you don't have to be here, stay home.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like there were interesting points in this article, I thought, like talking about how sort of in general, there's this larger trend of like schools going remote the minute there's any kind of challenge. The fact that kids are getting cut off from access to things like free breakfast and lunch.
That part was valid.
But like, to me, I think the issues there are like the fact that schools like have to serve as social safety nets because we don't have social safety nets like outside of them. The fact that like we live in a society where it is really challenging, if not impossible, for families to take time off work. The issue, I don't think, is that we are not teaching kids like a hard enough work ethic, and this is sending a bad message about how to live up to your responsibilities. Because what really stood out to me as kind of hyperbolic was the way this article ended, which said, "We may have missed a great opportunity to teach students another important lesson rooted in Pittsburgh culture. Anyone who grew up here remembers that dads and granddads, uncles and aunts went to work every day in factories and mills. In the worst weather, when they were sick or injured or feeling down, they poured through the gates and worked their shifts. They certainly wouldn't stay home because there was a big celebration in town. They all met their responsibilities."
This was also during a time when people were, working 6-day weeks and potentially like dying by being hoisted into a blast furnace. Like, I'm not sure that we want to harken back to the age of steel as like, this is how we should be conducting ourselves in 2026.
Yes, I just don't think the problem is we're not like molding children into future steelworkers who put their like bodies and well-being on the line every day.
I mean, my personal like resolution every single year is to work less hard. Like, I don't want to work. I don't want to be this productive. I don't want to be so efficient. Like, I just feel like this like homage to capitalism that we've all like invented in our brain, like Americans work hard. I don't like that, actually. I think that's dumb, and human brains and bodies are not meant for this. I don't want to instill that in my children. I want our collective society to value education and safety, and also like, not for nothing, that line about like, even when they were sick, did we learn nothing from the pandemic?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The fact that people are still coming to work sick after all of that, and or not masking if they are coming to work, like, I mean, there are so many things that we could be doing to prevent this. So one notable point here, I think, is that, people have compared us to previous cities that have hosted the draft, noting that Detroit kept its schools open during the draft and Green Bay actually closed its schools during the draft. One thing that I want to point out here is that those cities are not really comparable in terms of size. Green Bay is much smaller, so the draft footprint would have affected schools in the same way that it did in Pittsburgh. Detroit, meanwhile, is so much lower density than Pittsburgh. Schools are spread out throughout the city. I don't know a ton about the Detroit draft, like the granularity of the setup, but it's a really big city with schools that are presumably quite far from the draft site. Whereas Pittsburgh, like, we're pretty small, we're pretty dense. So I don't know if this is like an apples to apples comparison here for these other cities.
And I also noticed, like, friend of the pod, James Fogarty of A+ Schools, he was quoted in this opinion piece and talking about just like the logistical problem of keeping schools open during the draft is also partly a result of the fact that we have this magnet system where kids travel all over the city to go to school. He said like only a third of students in PPS go to their assigned neighborhood school. So I don't know how that compares to the systems in Detroit and Green Bay, but we do have a school setup that really relies on kids taking transit to other parts of the city.
So I guess one upshot of this for PPS is they're going to be leasing out actually 4 of their school's parking lots for draft goers. So
was that the point of this the whole time?
I saw that headline and I like immediately chuckled. Like, per usual, every single institution in the city does need money right now, but like, oh, It just feels like such an opaque money grab. I don't know. But maybe that's not a bad thing.
My reaction to this was just like, sure, why not? If we're going to be closing the schools anyway. So they're going to be at ATA and King, which I mentioned before, as well as at the Conroy and Manchester schools. PPS is going to be renting out its parking lots with the money going into the district's general fund. I think this is a good opportunity maybe for the district to make a little bit of coin on the side. I definitely don't think this is going to be a game-changing amount of money. Now, if PPS decided to rent out its buildings as Airbnbs, maybe there's...
We got a lot of empty real estate. A lot of asbestos-filled empty real estate. You're talking about making coin. I feel like this brings us back around. Like Pittsburgh Public has also been talking about how they're going to do financial literacy lessons for its students. Now, this feels like a real world example.
Yeah, it's tempting maybe to see this as a weird do as I say, not as I do situation. But I actually think that this is a pretty big deal because you hear people talking about this a lot, that there's so much teaching to the test and that kids aren't learning things like how to balance a checkbook. Of course, with online banking, maybe less of an important skill than it used to be. PPS is now implementing a new curriculum that has elements such as financial goal setting, budgeting, and for my money, this is maybe the most important part, dealing with different types of income. So I think about when I was freelancing and all of the tax headaches that created. Hopefully this new curriculum will demystify some of these things and really maybe familiarize students with some things that have become more important in a gig economy, but also teach students how to really value themselves and make sure that they're, planning ahead and not getting stuck with, hundreds of dollars in taxes because they forgot to add up all their freelancing income over the course of the year.
If I step back and think about it from my perspective, I was raised by people who were raised by Depression era folks. And I was taught never spend a dime that you don't have in your pocket. But the lessons that were not included with that is retirement and how to invest and things like that. The ways that you don't just survive, but build generational wealth. I had to kind of parse that later as not well past a grown adult. I would have loved to have some of those lessons, even to have a basic understanding of what the heck the stock market is, just 101 level economic principles, instead of having to learn that in my 20s and 30s, because not everybody grows up with a family that can teach you those lessons.
And that stuff all feels way more applicable later in life than trigonometry, for example, at least for me.
Unless you're going to be a carpenter, in which case that is great.
Yeah, so one more quick piece on the draft. There has been some kind of tension building in the community around a homeless encampment that is still occupying some land that's it's this narrow strip of land that's between Route 28 and the on-ramp to get onto Chestnut Street. So advocates locally have just been kind of worrying that this would, that the draft would be a pretext for an encampment sweep. Light of Life's executive director, Jarrell Gilliam, said that he worries that the unhoused are no longer seen as neighbors and that they're dehumanized, and the draft could potentially be used as a pretext for removing encampments, demolishing tents, things of that nature. He does say that Light of Life is planning to serve as a place of refuge for anyone displaced during the draft. But I guess a hopeful note for folks who are really worried about the unhoused community, Pittsburgh Public Safety spokesperson says there are no plans to clear encampments, but that there are crews working just to clean up things like debris around these encampment sites. So this encampment, I guess, has been kind of a magnet for folks who have been on the streets for a while, just because during warmer months, it offers them a place of refuge. And one thing that I actually learned from reading about this a little bit more is that encampments actually result in fewer ER visits versus people living on their own. Maybe just kind of the informal society element of that. And some unhoused folks in Pittsburgh actually would prefer to live in those versus in a shelter during the summer months. So this draft has kind of given this issue a chance to resurface. I feel like it hasn't been in the news as much since there was that real spike in homelessness during the immediate post-COVID years. But still, brings attention to the fact that this is still an issue for many folks, that there are Pittsburghers without shelter, even as the city is spending however much money on this huge event.
Yeah. And I think we also need to put this in context too. If you've been here a minute, in the last couple years, I think during the Gainey administration, but he was also in that post-COVID period, they did a lot of sweeps. Like, they did a lot of them.
Yeah.
And there were a handful of spots in downtown that they did that. We had major shelter closures. There was a huge one that they put a huge like fence around for a while, kind of beside the post office and out near Allegheny Commons. I noticed that tons of people were tailgating and dropping trash and things like that during Pirates home opener day. Like, that's they don't want people living there, and they only want certain kinds of people to use it certain kinds of ways. Like, I understand the optics of wanting Pittsburgh to look as good as it can, but not at the expense of my neighbors, because they are, let's be clear, our unhoused community are our neighbors, and I want them to have the support they need during this period too. They live here. All these other people may or may not.
Today's episode is supported by Clearview Federal Credit Union. I actually just made a new bank account with Clearview, and the process was so easy. I set up an online appointment, and in just 30 minutes, everything got sorted. But banking can get confusing, and sometimes it's just easier to ask your questions in person. So I was really happy to hear that Clearview Federal Credit Union has new spots open, one in the Strip District and another downtown right by Market Square. They've got 23 financial centers all over the area, and you can pop into one to learn more about their 412 offer, where you can get $412 when you open their Absolute checking account and meet deposit requirements. Plus, you can tap into their free financial counseling services to meet all your financial goals. Learn more about Clearview at clearviewfcu.org/412.
Today's show is brought to you by City Theater and their production of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. This Tony Award-winning musical follows the life, loves, and heartbreaks of the legendary Hedwig, an East German rock and roll goddess. I have been meaning to see this musical forever. I know it's got a huge cult following, but the last time City Theater put on the show was in 2003. So I am very thrilled they're reviving it. It's exciting for people like me who get to check it out for the very first time, and all the so-called heads out there who will now get a chance to re-experience the show right here in Pittsburgh. Hedwig and the Angry Inch is running from May 12th to June 7th at the Greer Cabaret downtown, and it's being presented in partnership with the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. You do not want to miss this beloved, fierce, and energetic show. Tickets available at citytheatercompany.org.
All right, we are back. Mallory is taking a little pause because we're bringing in a ringer. Hal B. Klein, CityCast Pittsburgh contributor, dining critic for the Post-Gazette, and wildly wrong about something we just talked about on this show. Hal, welcome.
Yeah, I love surprises. So not a week ago, we were talking about how the Michelin Guide was not going to come to Pittsburgh because it wouldn't make a lot of sense. And then lo and behold, got an invite to a virtual press conference from Milwaukee, and it turns out that a bunch of different cities have combined to work to bring Michelin Guide to what they're calling the American Great Lakes region. And Pittsburgh,
I feel clairvoyant right now.
although we're a little far from Lake Erie, is included in this.
I mean, we're closer to Lake Erie than we were to like DC and Philly, which was your beef with
Truly.
like the James Beard Awards, that like it doesn't make sense that we get lumped in with all those other people.
I actually think this would be a great James Beard consortium of cities as well.
Hey,
Just
that's
saying.
something.
Yeah.
You were so confident, though. I'm going to play you back to you. I've heard people on the internet, this is not my tax bracket, but like I've seen people say like it's their goal to go to like a Michelin-starred place in every city, or they want to go to as many of them in a region as they can, like that sort of thing. Is that something we should aspire to as a city? Like to be part of that kind of conversation?
I don't think so.
Why?
We should be Pittsburgh and be our own place. And,
Do you know if Michelin, I mean, does Michelin knock on your door? Like, would they have come to Pittsburgh, or would Pittsburgh have to reach out to them?
Pittsburgh would have to reach out to them.
I love it. You're like, I'm just like, has Michelin reached out to Hal? Apparently not.
Which makes sense, right? Because, I mean, the whole thing about their guide is that their judges are completely anonymous. They're full-time judges. That's what they do.
Can you
So
imagine
the fact
having
that they've
that
been
job,
here
by the
secretly
way?
in the city, I know that'd be amazing.
It's very
and
like
wild.
Ratatouille.
Yeah. And they said in the press conference, too, they're like, our inspectors, they call them, have been around your cities for a little bit now. So it was happening.
It was oh my God. Can you imagine if one of them was listening and they're just like, man, just wait.
They walk among us.
I actually had someone who works with Visit Pittsburgh was like, ha ha ha, like not like in a mean way, but just like, oh, we wanted to tell you. Like,
oh no.
Yeah.
That it's hilarious. But it's also maybe good news. I got to be honest, I'm a little afraid of how we're paying for this. Like we talk about this on the show all the time,
right.
But like Pittsburgh is broke as a joke. So how is this happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And I wonder, I think it was smart to have 6 cities all combined together, right? Because that's going to make it it'll make it much more of cost sharing between all these different cities. So the final tab will probably be a lot lower than what, like Philadelphia or Atlanta paid to get the guide in there.
Could that affect how many stars like this region ultimately gets?
It shouldn't. I mean, it basically their whole thing is the criteria. And if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And they don't limit. They're not saying, each city will get 3 one-star restaurants. If there are 6 of them, great. If there are 0 of them, that's sad for the city. But like that also could be a possibility.
We could pay money for this. Somebody's paying money. Do we know who's paying the money?
I would imagine Visit Pittsburgh, but it's definitely something I plan on looking into in the next week or so.
We'll be reporting back on that. Okay, but we could pay money and then theoretically get jilted completely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unlikely that there won't be any recognition. I think it's more likely that we'll see more bib gourmands, which is the
honorable mention you talked about. I mean, that's why I am stuck on this, because last week we had this whole conversation. You and I have been laughing about this for solidly years. And here we are. They're coming. It's for real. So when are we going to find out what happens with Michelin?
They said 2027.
So they get to eat for a whole
no month
year.
Yet, but yeah. It's a lot of territory to cover.
Man, that is the dream right there. That seems like an incredible gig if you can get it.
I mean, honestly, Cleveland, Detroit, Indianapolis, Milwaukee, Minneapolis. This is going to be a fun time for those inspectors.
And these are some other great food cities. Like, Hal, listening to your episode, you talked a little bit about kind of like the social class underpinnings of some of this. And for all of that, Cleveland has this kind of like Rust Belt reputation. That is like a fantastic food city, as is Minneapolis. Like there are so many great places that probably, are getting way overdue laurels for work they've been doing for decades.
Colin rides hard for the Rust Belt.
Oh, all day, ride or die for the Rust Belt.
I think it's really exciting. And I mean, I think, like Milwaukee doesn't get the credit it deserves either. I remember a couple of years ago, I went to a conference in Milwaukee and I was like, this city is fun and cool. And there's a lot going on there. So, hopefully it will grant an opportunity for this entire region and it will help, tourism throughout, it'd be cool. Like, I don't know, I'd get excited if I see this guide comes out and go, oh, I'd known about these places in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Off I go.
I hope that, following on the heels of some maybe momentum that the draft gives us, that there's, tourists who look at this and think about, oh, they hosted this big event and now there are all these restaurants being announced that I should go check out, or maybe, return to the city after my draft excursion.
I mean, that is the entire hope of the draft, right? For what it's worth, we put a call out in our newsletter this week to ask which restaurants our readers think should get a Michelin star. So Hal, I'm curious, Colin, you too, whether any of these submissions land for you or if you have a bet on any that stand a chance based on the criteria we talked about last week, right? So Golden Guy, thoughts, feelings?
I haven't gotten to go to Golden Guy yet, but I've heard good things.
Hal very delicately shook his head no.
It's a great spot to go to, but no, I don't think that's
probably not reasonably.
Probably not going to make it. Yeah.
Okay. Eddie Merlot's, isn't that a chain?
That's a chain.
Yeah. You don't get a star at a chain, do you? Is that a possibility?
No.
Okay. Hal says no. Alla Familia.
It's. I mean, I think what this will show people is the difference between beloved local institutions and places that people that are coming here without a full history of dining around at restaurants for years or family memories will see. I think that's the advantage and disadvantage of something like this, right? Is people are literally like parachuting it. That'd be cool if they actually parachuted in for the reveal.
We keep pulling for the zip line across the river.
Yeah.
What about like a one by spork? This is not a reader recommendation. This is me wondering.
Yeah, I think that probably is the place that has the strongest chance because it checks off a lot of boxes for what they look for. And again, because it's a guide that doesn't really care about how much money people have to spend, the price barrier isn't going to be an issue as it would be for a lot of other places. For other lists and other places, I think they would just say, like, is it great like this? And I think I'd say that. And like my wild card prediction for this is Lilith is the other place that they'll look at the most.
Okay. I just had a reservation that I wasn't able to keep the other day. So I'm going to try to get in there before the hype gets real. That's a new 2026 ambition.
Yeah, you should do it.
Anything else we should know about the Michelin news? Good news? I don't know how to qualify this.
I mean, I think the thing that's going to be the most interesting once the list comes out, which is, something to talk about in a year-ish, is there are all these restaurants that are already really popular that people love that may very well get Bib Gourmand recognitions. And just thinking about how hard it is now to get reservations at those places and how much harder it might be once these things happen, right? Because as a society, we love a shorthand in any way. And so for restaurants, it's, James Beard nominated, and now it's like Michelin recommended or Michelin Bib Gourmand or Michelin star. And that's going to make reservations really tough, I think.
Hal, I just go where you tell me to. You're my North Star.
Oh, thank you. I try.
Thank you so much. We will keep reading in the Post-Gazette.
Thanks so much.
Today's show is sponsored by Sustainable Pittsburgh. They're hosting the Allegheny Mountain Malt Sustainable Sip-Off in partnership with Food 21 and Allegheny Mountain Malt. This is going to be a beer tasting competition featuring 11 local breweries, and attendees get to vote on their favorite craft beer. But this event isn't just about the drinks, it's also about celebrating local craft brewing and sustainable sourcing. These breweries are all using locally malted grain instead of sourcing from far away, so you actually get to taste the difference local ingredients make. And the Sip-Off is the kickoff event for Sustainable Pittsburgh's new Bite Pittsburgh campaign. That stands for Bridge It Together for Everyone, and it's a campaign to celebrate how our region's businesses can create a more sustainable, vibrant, and resilient future. The Allegheny Mountain Malt Sustainable Sip-Off is happening on Tuesday, April 1st at Mike's Beer Bar on the North Shore. The event starts at 4 and winners get announced at 7. Tickets are just $20 and also come with a souvenir cup. But there's a limited amount, so make sure to buy them soon. Purchase your ticket at bridgeittogether.org/sipoff and follow @BitePGH on social to learn more about fun events.
We are still celebrating over here. We had a big milestone in March. We hit our 1000th episode of CityCast Pittsburgh. I know if y'all have been tuning in, we've been making a big deal about that and also making a list of things we love about living here in the city. And we wanted your ideas. You can still submit those. We have a form in our show notes. But the whole project is something that's just been like such a labor of love. And we're very grateful. It's also sponsored by the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. So their pick of the week, a thing that they love about being here in Pittsburgh is that they have this thing called a Trust Flex subscription. So their 2026-2027 season is on sale now. And the Trust Flex option allows you to save more. So you can go to a show, a dance show, a magic show, and they have discounts if you get tickets to 3 or more shows at a time.
My pick of the week is just kind of broadly the fact that Pittsburgh is so unpretentious. Like, I just really enjoy the attitude here. Nobody's trying too hard. We have a lot of pride, but we also understand our city has some flaws. And I just like being in a place where you don't feel like you need to put on a show.
Yeah, I feel like the attitude here is we know our flaws and we can criticize the city, but you best not come in here trying to tell us how to live our lives.
Yeah, it's like a big sibling, little sibling situation.
Definitely. My pick for this week has got to be Butter Joint's pulled goat. I was thinking, I was going in my mind through all the restaurants that I would personally nominate for a James Beard or a Michelin Bib Gourmand designation. And I love the food at Butter Joint so much, but that pulled goat is divine.
Is it how does the goat arrive at your table?
So if you get the brunch version, it comes with a little piece of falafel and a poached egg that is a perfectly poached egg. Some nice little sides there as well. Or you can get their main entree is a sandwich that's really, really good.
Okay.
Megan, I know you've made fun of me in the past for shouting out the vinegar pie at Butter Joint because I know it is like a humble pie and it's funny to have it like elevated and you charge a decent amount of money for it at a restaurant. But I just think it is so delicious. I highly recommend it.
It is truly phenomenal. It's called a chess pie in my part of the world. But yes, it is absolutely delicious. I don't, there's nothing wrong. Like restaurants need to survive. And sometimes that means a markup on a humble dish, but one can make it at home if you feel so inclined. Vinegar pie, chess pie, look it up. Mine this week is the Three Rivers Heritage Trail, specifically the stretch kind of in front of what used to be, still is, the Alcoa building there next to Allegheny Landing, because they have all those trees that sort of flank over the trail there. This time of year, and also in the fall, when all those leaves turn bright yellow and start to fall and they look like pinwheels in the wind, now is their time. Like we're just coming into when everything turns pink and it's so pretty. I drove through the city this morning, and with the smoke and like the way like the things that are hot hit the cold air, it's just so nice to be on a bicycle or go for a little run or a walk or whatever, just like experiencing that part of the city and see it like wake up and open up in front of you, but in nature. It's like, it's so unique.
I mean, that's a great opportunity to shout out my pick from last week, Sure Thing, because what better way to be right there on the riverfront when you're next to all this glory than on the water directly at the foot of the skyline.
That's true.
Yeah, the North Shore section of the trail is gorgeous. Construction on the Esplanade notwithstanding right now, because it's created some detours.
You're not wrong, Colin. I feel like you can tell we've been like really immersed in Pittsburgh winter because we're all just like being outside and it not being miserable.
The air.
Well, most of the time anyway.
Most of the time.
True.
We also have neighbor shout outs. Today we have a shout out from a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor, Dan B., who is shouting out Carnegie Mellon's buggy races, which are happening this weekend. So today and tomorrow, April 10th and 11th, it's a longstanding tradition where students build an unmotorized vehicle and then race it around relay style. There are 5 students that push the buggy and then 1 driver inside. It's all part of CMU's Spring Carnival and Reunion Weekend, which includes a lot of events and activities on campus, many of which are open to the public. But Dan B. is specifically shouting out the buggy races. Thank you, Dan.
Yes. And if you want to share your favorite local event, business, nonprofit, sandwich, green space in the city, whatever, on the podcast and in our newsletter, you can become a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor and send us your shout out. We will read it right here. You can join today at membership.citycast.fm. And reminder, that will also allow you to listen to our new special bonus segment that we're going to drop every Friday. And it will also get you special merch at our 412 Day event, which, one more reminder, is happening this Sunday from 11 to 2 at Southern Tier Brewing Company on the north side.
And welcome to our newest CityCast Pittsburgh neighbors. A lot of friends of the pod on this list: Rachel R., Kristen G., Ed H., aka my daddy, and Eleanor N. We are so glad to have y'all in the family. Dad, you were already there, but I appreciate you nonetheless.
Looking forward to drinking some beers with all the neighbors at Southern Tier this Sunday. That should be a great time. I just got to look at the tattoo flash sheet too. So if you're itching for some Pittsburgh ink, there may be an opportunity for that as well.
There's a bunch of Pittsburgh-themed tattoos.
Yeah, the bridge is really cute to me, but is it like too kitsch to get a bridge if you live in Pittsburgh? So many of us have bridge tattoos.
I don't think it's quite on the like level of getting a fleur-de-lis if you live in New Orleans, but it's not so far from it.
We'll move on to wins and losses and things to know. A thing to know this week: ICE, the Department of Homeland Security, that portion of it has left Pittsburgh International Airport. There has been no comment as of this recording from the DHS on why they've decided to pull out. City Council had passed that bill barring cooperation with ICE, but of course the airport is an authority with the county. We don't know why this has happened, but there'll be a link in the show notes if you want to learn more.
One other thing to know, if you are a fan of the Pit and of helping your fellow human beings, the American Red Cross is teaming up with the Pit to host a series of blood drives here. And if you donate, you can get an exclusive The Pit t-shirt. It says, "The Pit, the work never stops." So there's one happening today from 11 to 4 at Pitt in the William Pitt Union. And
You're
then
saying the word Pitt so many times.
That's true. I don't know how to avoid it. I'm sorry that we're in the city of Pittsburgh. But then there's another drive happening Monday, April 20th from 9 to 2:30 at the Duquesne University Student Union. There, got through that sentence without saying the word pit.
If it sounds like if you go today, you could have your Pit t-shirt in time for the season finale, which is coming up this coming Thursday. So one more episode. Then we'll have to do our big official CityCast deep dive on that.
Well, and speaking of drama, much as there's been a lot of drama on the Pit, there has been a lot of drama in the food world. And I now deeply regret shouting out the resiliency of our craft beer scene, because one of my absolute favorite outposts in the city, namely Penn Brewing at the airport,
You
is
literally
closing.
jinxed it. You did it. This is
I
on
know.
you, Colin.
I'm so upset about this. That was my favorite place to grab a pint before heading off into the wild blue
too.
yonder. And now I guess I will have to find somewhere else to get my big old pretzels. Also, I actually overheard this at their tap room while I was unemployed and thus unable to report on it. But Inner Groove Brewing is unfortunately closing its Allentown tap room. So that was one of my favorite places to go get a beer before a show. And now I'm going to have to find somewhere else in Allentown, maybe Bottle Rocket or somewhere else to pregame any heavy metal concerts I go to. That having been said, their Verona tap room is going to remain open, they say. So you can head on down there. There's also a new distillery that has just opened up. Lawrenceville Distilling just relocated down to that main strip. And last but not least, in a loss for people who love French fries on sandwiches, Primanti's is kind of shrinking its footprint in greater Pittsburgh. They're closing their North Versailles, their Monroeville locations, citing a, quote, shift in customer behavior. So curious to hear what that is. But apparently both of these restaurants will actually be replaced with some other institutions. So the Monroeville spot is due to become a Thornhill Tap House. And the North Versailles location is going to become a Smash Pub, which I guess is related to Shake Shack or something, or
Smash Shack? Isn't that the sister location, sister restaurant?
I don't even know what the Smash Shack is, but it sounds tasty.
Sounds like we all have something to learn here. We also have a win. Pennsylvania has acknowledged its first ever underground state park. This is a thing in other states. It's the Laurel Caverns, so they will officially be our 125th state park. Y'all, I got to be honest, when I saw this, I was like, were they trying to do like a thing with like America 250 in the state of Pennsylvania by making 125th state park? I just feel like
my first
mathing
thought
like
as
that
well.
Feels like a Pennsylvania tourism kind of move.
It could very well be, but I was reading up on this, and also it seems like what's behind it is the guy who owns Laurel Caverns. His name's David Kale. He donated it to the state. That's why it has now become a state park. As a way to
it was privately owned.
Yes, he owns it now, and it sounds like he was concerned like he's not going to be able to run it forever, and was concerned that if it like goes into other private hands, there's always the chance that like it won't be open and accessible to the public, which is something that's been a priority for him. He told the PG like it's going to need protection when he can no longer run it, and said, quote, "The only way I knew I could guarantee that was to get it out of private hands. As long as that property was owned by individuals, it ran the threat of being sold or being turned into something else like a quarry." So I don't know if America 250 is what prompted him to like make this donation now, but I love the idea of wanting to ensure that it continues to be an asset that everybody can access.
And not for nothing, it's opening for the season on Earth Day, which is also kind of fun.
I can't wait to get back there. It's been so long since I've been to Laurel Caverns, and what a great way to keep this resource around. I mean, it is really spectacular inside. I can remember that first visit very clearly.
I've never been. It's on my list. So maybe that'll be something I love about living around here in the near future. Not for nothing, though. You do have to plan your visit for like the warm weather months, I've heard, because they have to close it in the winter because the bats hibernate in there. A thing to know. Okay, so that concludes our main episode today. Like we said, starting today, we're going to start doing bonus segments just for members. That's in the ad-free feed. If you are a member and you listen to us on a platform where you have never made the ad-free feed work, I just want to encourage you to reach out to us because we will help you get plugged in to the version of this that will include what you want to hear, a little bit extra from CityCast Pittsburgh. This is going to be a place where every Friday we ask big questions about our civic identity, share some hot tips, some gossip that we as a group tend to reserve for our in-person conversations, but y'all are our neighbors. So you get to be a little bit more on the inside than we're able to share with everybody else. So today we are going to be dishing on a Wall Street Journal article about the Block brothers. So this is the pair of brothers that have been in charge of Block Communications, Inc., which owns the Post-Gazette. Colin, I don't know about you, but I get people texting me about the fate of the PG just about every day.
Oh my goodness. I just want some details. I am white knuckling my way through this period of change with the Post-Gazette because there have been so many rumors and some of them are very good and some of them are very bad. And I just want to know.
Yes. So we're going to talk about what we know and what has been said and reported recently about the family that gets to decide the future for everyone. So make sure you're listening in your members only ad-free feed. And if you're not a neighbor, sign up today to make sure that you always get these full episodes. You can join in the link in our show notes or by visiting membership.citycast.fm/Pittsburgh. That is all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. You can support us and get the long version of our Friday show by becoming a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor. You can learn more at membership.citycast.fm. Our music is by Los Mocochetes, Aaron Taylor Waldman, All the Kimonos, Chanterelle, The New Fools, Lindsay Abraham, Forever Sunset, and Paper Twins, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. Mallory Falk is our executive producer. Sophia Lowe and Elizabeth Kama produce the show this week. Francesca DeBecco writes our newsletter, and I am your host, Megan Harris. We'll be back on Monday with more from around the city. Have a great weekend, y'all.
It is of note that a lot of these Primanti's locations have been replaced by burger joints because the one in Garfield was replaced by Moonlit. And I would regard that as kind of an upgrade because Moonlit's really good.
Moonlit is fantastic.
You saw Reddit just did a poll on best burgers in Pittsburgh and Moonlit won.